All right. We are live on Facebook and we are also now live on Instagram. We are live everywhere. And I am so happy to be spending this time with the fabulous Megan Chance. Everybody who's been doing this for a while, I know you know the drill. Tell us where you're ringing in from. Hopefully, we will see some bodies coming soon. We are starting right on time. I'm very proud of me. And here's some of the gang already. Hi, Nicole. Hi, Susie. Glad you guys could come. And I think Susie said she saw you at Third Place Books when your fabulous book.
Are you talking about Susie Baldwin?
Yeah. So Susie has got like coming back for seconds. She couldn't get enough of you. And we've got Connie here. Hi, Connie. Columbus, Ohio is here. Minnesota's here. Hi, Patty. Hi, Debbie. Zephyr Hills is here. And let's see, Nancy's made it from Wisconsin. Diana's here from New Jersey. So hi, guys. I'm so glad you could join us. I know more of you will be coming in as we go along, but I'm going to introduce you, in case you haven't heard of you, I'm sure you have, Megan Chance, because she is an amazing writer. She has been doing this for quite a while, and we'll get to that here in a minute. But if you haven't heard of Megan, her new book, and I just happen to have my copy here, and I'm sure you've got a copy to show too. But isn't this the most gorgeous cover, you guys? Oh, love that cover. Just like jumps out and says, buy me, buy me, buy me. And it's really elegant and kind of fits the title and the topic of the book, which we will get to in a moment. But I'll just give you a little background, you guys. I have known Megan for a long time. I knew Megan when I had brown hair and she was a literal baby, just a baby starting out. And one of the things I love about Megan is how disciplined she is and always has been. And my wardrobe, I wanted to tell a tale on her. But Megan, so much of us, we don't spring full grown as writers. Many of us have jobs before we start, and Megan did. But Megan was really dedicated. And I remember that Saturdays were your writing days, and nothing and nobody interfered with Saturday writing days, even if it was a Romance Writers of America meeting. It's like, sorry, Megan will not be here because she's writing. And how do you feel that discipline, I had to have stood you in good stead, having that kind of discipline, wouldn't you say?
Well, yeah. I mean, because I was working full time. So I think at the time I was taking it was 2 nights a week and 1 weekend day. And it was usually Saturday morning. If it had to be because of a family thing, I would change it to Sunday. But it was generally, it had to, I mean, it was sort of like if you want to be published, you have to have, nobody buys an imaginary book, right? So you have to, I know, what a surprise. And so the words had to be there. And I did that for a long time. I think from the time I decided I wanted to be published until the time I was. It was 8 years, and it was my 6th manuscript, my 6th full manuscript that finally sold. So yeah, it was a long time, but that was the thing. It was discipline. And the thing that I realized really early on was that the tasks that you had, what you had to do, kind of expanded to fill the time that you had to do it. So if you had 2 hours, you could get done in the same amount of time if what you had to do in 2 hours that you could in 6 hours. And because, for whatever reason, your brain would go, I'll have 6 hours, maybe I'll go on the internet or whatever. And this was before, there was the internet really. And so I don't know what to attribute that to except for just daydreaming. But, when my children were born, it was even worse, because it was sort of like I had to write during nap time. And so it would be like, here you go, here's your hour, here's your 2 hours. And my youngest daughter was not a sleeper. And so I would put her in, I had one of those automatic swinging chairs.
Oh, yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, I'd park it in my doorway of my office, plunk her in there and just go boom, and it's like, I don't care if you like it or not. You're going to be, or at least
Mommy's writing. Someday you'll be thankful that Mommy's writing. Yeah. Well, did I misremember? But it seemed to me like one of your daughters actually wants to be a writer or was doing some writing. Am
Yeah,
I
my
remember?
oldest one. Yeah,
Yeah.
my oldest one wants to be a writer.
So
And she is, she's writing. She works in a bookstore now. And yeah, but that's her goal is to be a writer. So
that's
she's
just
talented too. She's won writing contests and all kinds of stuff. So, and she knows how hard it is. So it's not like, she's grown up in any kind of dream world where it's an easy job. So
no, but she's obviously inherited her mom's talent, and that's just a really, really cool thing. Hi, guys. So those of you who are coming in late, I saw a bunch of names and where all you're coming from. We're all over the place here, and thank you, one and all. And thanks to, I see a lot of our Instagram. My Betty Mary is on here, I see, and Jody's here. And hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Those of you who have come late, I'm talking to Megan Chance, who is just she's a very elegant writer. If I had to describe how you write, I would say elegant. And you have done, how many books do you have? Have you bothered to keep count lately? How many books are you up to in your career?
It's over 20. It's over 20. I don't know exactly at this point in time, but yeah, over 20.
Wow, wow, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. Diane says, when you held up the book, it looked like it had a lot of pages. I guess it would be a book to read when you have a nice weekend. It'd be a
Yeah.
book to read anytime. You can start
Yeah.
it, and keep
Yeah.
reading
It's
away,
over
right?
300 pages. Yeah.
And we are going to get to that too, guys. She is going to tell us a little bit about her new book. And as usual, it's thank you for all of you who are actually taking the time to join us live. It is appreciated. And you know that we often do have a drawing for those who comment while we're live. And so we'll talk about that later too. But there will be a little gifty we'll be having a drawing for later. But hi, Melanie is here, and Lisa's here, and Carolyn's here, and Karen, and Debbie, and Diane. Hey, everybody. And I know some more of you came in but your comments have already vanished on up the column. Feel free to, and I will try. A couple get away from me usually, but I do try to watch for questions. So if you do have questions as we're talking, feel free to ask them, and we'll see if we can get Megan to answer those. Megan she has the coolest office. It's not in the house, lucky you, and it's actual office. Oh, I'm so excited. But your office, has it been 2 years now since we had the storm that took it out?
Yeah, been 2 years. I had this giant maple tree, huge, like 100 years old at least. I mean, giant. It was about more than 125 feet tall, and it had like these 4 giant trunks, and 2 of them actually fell on my office and crushed it. And it happened to happen on my sister's birthday, actually. And it also happened to be the day that I was uploading A Dangerous Education. It was the day it was due, and I was uploading it. And I happened to be in the house with my dog, who was just he was like not even 1. And it was so windy outside that the thing about this tree, it was constantly dropping these huge branches in the wind. And my office was kind of right underneath it. I didn't want him out there in the wind. So I was right inside the house, and I'm busily uploading, A Dangerous Education. And I hear this, it sounded like a bomb went off. My whole house shook, and not just shook a little bit, shook a lot, and it was extended. It was like boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, what? Oh my God, what is that? And I, go outside to see once the whole thing is over, and just stood there in like this shocked amazement, because this tree had fallen on my office and crushed it. And it had actually fallen on exactly where I sit. It had crushed my desk, crushed my computer, and actually it had sent branches like spears through my neighbor's house.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And as I'm standing there staring, all of my neighbors and people who had been walking down the street came racing, because of course they know I work in my office, and they were all thinking I had been crushed, by this tree. And it was pretty stunning. I was really in shock for a very long. My neighbor, is calling the fire department. She's like, have you turned off your power? And I'm like, what? And then my other neighbor that got the spears through a tree is coming running. And she ended up having to move out of her house for several months because it had done so much structural damage.
That's just terrible.
And, you know, everything, I mean, we had to rebuild my office. My brother-in-law, who is a contractor, luckily rebuilt my office.
Wow.
Oh, what
The
happened
fact
here?
that you were in that, I mean, we call that
Oh,
providence. I tell you, we
Yeah.
had that happen when we were living on Bainbridge, and we had our little family compound. We were all on the same piece of land in big storm. And my brother, they were in, you know, bedroom was up on the second level and getting windy. And somehow in the middle of the night, he decided, he thought, I really think we need to move down to the basement. And you know,
Yeah.
they did. Big tree came through and stabbed the bed exactly where he would have been lying. And it's just, you look at that and go, whoa. You know, sometimes it's really a good time. You know, things have a way of sometimes really working out, don't they? I mean, because you could have been in there.
Oh, it was really scary when I saw exactly where it had fallen and what it had crushed. I mean, we were moving we were cleaning out the storage unit today, and my old computer is pancaked. And my husband's like, don't you want to toss this? And I'm like, I don't know what's in it that I might someday need. And I might need someone to try to retrieve the hard drive out of it, you know. But the tree, they had to take out the tree because 2 trunks were still there. They had to bring in 2 different cranes to take it out because it was so big. One wasn't tall enough to take it out, so they had to go bring another one. It was a giant tree. And the thing is I'd been telling my daughters, you know, if you ever cut that tree down, I will haunt you. I love that tree. And I'm like, now I'm like, well, it tried to kill me. So
maybe I don't love that tree so much.
I don't love that tree anymore. Take it down.
Now, this is just me being nosy, but your tree fell on the neighbor's house. So do you have to get your house insurance to cover their repairs? And how did that work?
Her insurance covered her repairs, and our insurance covered our repairs. Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh my God.
I know. Yeah.
Wow. Well,
I mean, I would have been responsible had I known that the tree was diseased and I left it there, but that wasn't what happened. A storm took it out.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I know these broadleaf maples that have many trunks, they are really prone to breaking and falling in storms. And we have a lot of them here in the Pacific Northwest. I had no idea. And it was like a giant tree. I mean, probably, I don't know, 40, 50 feet around, giant tree.
Oh, wow. That's a shame, really, though, because that is such a gorgeous tree.
It was. I mean, I have 1/3 of an acre of property, and when the leaves fell from that tree, it covered the entire property. And I miss that. But
well, I know you hated to lose it, but better the tree than thee, as the saying would go, you know?
Yeah.
So how did that affect your writing schedule at all? How did you cope with, was it hard to even get back into writing, or was it like an escape, or here's something I can control, I'm going to go write?
Well, yeah, in a way, because, you know, fortunately, the book I had been working on, you know, it was due that day. So I was done. And it was, you know, and I usually take a couple of weeks off, you know, before I start researching the next one, which is what I did. So I was in a research mode, and and so I was doing most of that in the house while they were rebuilding, and they couldn't rebuild because winter came and snow and stuff. So they couldn't really start rebuilding till the spring. But I have had a lot of stuff out here, still, old books and equipment and stuff that I couldn't get to because no one would let me go in here out of fear that it was going to collapse on me. So, so I ended up moving into one of my daughter's old rooms, and they both moved out. So that wasn't such a big deal. But my husband also works at home. So when I'm in my office, he normally leaves me alone. But when I'm in the house, I'm constantly
you're fair game
available, you know? Yeah. So it took me, and I was working on Glamorous Notions. I was researching Glamorous Notions, and it did feel like it took longer to write that book just because I was constantly, being interrupted. It was longer to research that book than it had taken me to research anything, just because I just couldn't get what felt like uninterrupted time.
Yeah. Oh,
So
that's hard. That's hard. Well, you're in your office right now, it looks like, right? Are you
yes, I'm
talking
in
in
my
your
new
office?
office, which I
How
love.
fun is that? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
By the way, I know a whole slew of you come in. Hi to Lisa and Mindy and Linda and Deanne and Nicole. I think I might have said hi earlier, but also who wanted to know? Oh, Deanne wanted to know. So did you use the wood for firewood? What happened to the tree?
It was by the time we got to or the wood for the tree, yes, some of it, yes. My
Oh,
brother-in-law took it because
oh, well, that's good.
they have a wood stove. I don't have a wood stove. So
Oh,
yeah, he
yeah,
took it.
that's
Yeah.
very, very cool though. So the tree did not, fall down in vain. Somebody used it. Let's see. We had a question from Karen. She wants to know what prompted you to write, as in probably how on earth did you get started?
I knew I wanted to be a writer when I was 6 years old.
Wow.
And really young. And I loved to read. And I would do these little research jaunts because I think it was 6 or 7, I could get a library card. And I was really young. And I would go to the library and I would like check out all the books I could find on, like, say it would be Prairie Week. And I would go check out all the books I could find on the prairie and I would read them all. And then the next week would be like Mountain Week. And I would do, it's kind of an obnoxious know-it-all at that point, and so I would in fact, I still am an obnoxious know-it-all if you ask my family.
No,
But
you're very diplomatic, actually.
well, it is true. Ask them. But and so there was nothing like I didn't know or didn't want to know. I really loved just learning and reading. And we had this, I was constantly reading. I grew up in Ohio. We moved here when I was 11, and my mom was always going, go outside and play. And I would be like, why? I don't want to. I want to sit here and read. So she would like force me to go outside, and I hated it. And so like living here where it's gloomy and rainy all the time is like the perfect climate for me.
Oh my gosh, you have the perfect excuse. So were you more of an introvert as a child then? Because I was always out playing and doing stuff. I loved to read, but I just always wanted to be out partying with the kids.
Oh no, man. I was a total introvert. I mean, it was like if I could read a book, that's where I wanted to be. And so it became really, I used to tell myself stories constantly. I would like walk around the backyard and tell stories to myself and kind of act them out a little bit, so it was just really for me, it was just waiting for the chance to sort of write them down, waiting to be able to write them down.
It's very, very cool. So yeah, who needed playmates when you had yourself in your own imagination?
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody who had asked, Cindy wanted me to show the book cover again because she missed it. Here's the new book. She's written a ton. This is just the newest one, and it's got a mystery in it. It's a very interesting book. We'll get to that though. But first, we're being nosy about Megan's life because somebody earlier posted that you are a new author to her, and that's partly why we do this, you guys, is so you can have a chance to meet some of these authors that maybe you haven't had a chance to meet yet. And there are so many of us these days. It seems like the whole world is writing a book, so it's hard to keep track of all of the authors out there, and there are so many good ones, but Megan is one of the top tier ones. So you guys are lucky to be getting a chance to meet her tonight. So this is very cool. Okay, now you all know Sheila has to be nosy and butt into people's lives and ask. So I'm wanting to know, so what's your favorite thing to do when you're not writing then? What's your favorite? Read, of course. Well, silly me. Why did I not?
I like to cook too. I like to bake and cook, but reading's my favorite.
Okay, there you go. I bet a lot of us identify. Yeah, Betty says, Megan, new author to me. And Cindy, well, you picked the right book cover. Red is Cindy's favorite color. So there you
go. Oh, good.
It really is grabbing. And I like the dress. But I love old Hollywood. and I love the fancy glamour and all those styles. And so this is pretty. It's really a great cover. Did you have any input into that cover, or did they say
Oh
there it
yeah,
is? Really?
yeah. We spent a lot of time trying to find the right cover for this book, and
Oh,
yeah, and like
cool.
picking the right dress. Excuse me. I had a couple dresses to choose from, and
Oh,
this
cool.
was the clear like favorite.
Oh,
So
it's gorgeous. I'm
yeah,
looking at it, and of course we don't see the whole lady's head, but it
yeah,
makes me think of like Ava Gardner or somebody.
yeah. That's what
Yeah,
I thought too. Actually,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
exactly what
Like
I thought.
looks like
Yeah,
Ava
and
Gardner.
when we were talking, and they're like, "Well, we'll change the background color," and I'm like, "No, you have to keep it red. It's just
No,
that red on red is so cool."
it's
So
really cool. It's just very grabbing. And when
yeah,
you can have a grabbing color, that's a fun thing. Well, okay,
yeah.
guys. So when she's not writing, she's reading. But are you snacking when you're reading?
No, I don't snack.
Oh my gosh! No wonder
No,
you're
I don't.
slim.
I know. Well, I wish I
When
was
do you ever
smaller.
snack? When do you snack? You
That's
must
not a
snack.
thing. It's a drag. No, no,
No?
I've never really snacked. No,
So the
I mean,
chocolate is never calling you? No chocolate?
no, I'm not a chocolate person. I'm
Ah,
I'm not a chocolate person. I am a bread person. I am a
ah.
bread and butter and fat person. Salt. Like
Okay,
if I,
well,
if
yeah.
I were gonna snack, it would be things like pretzels, and it wouldn't be sweet things. But like
Salties.
pretzels are like a downfall for me. If they're around, I will eat them.
Okay, all
If
right.
bread's around, I will eat. Like if like a good sourdough bread, I could
Oh,
very much.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I could eat an
Wow.
entire loaf of bread by myself.
Yes, you have totally shocked Pam. She was like, no snacks, no chocolate.
I don't. Because I have, I mean, when I want to be disciplined, I can be very disciplined, but like I know what my faults are, and I know what my weaknesses are, and so it's like I, I buy like a loaf of sourdough bread every now and then, or I'll make it, and it's like don't have it around otherwise, because like I will
Yeah.
eat it.
The old thing about don't have temptation in the house. This was quite a while back. I bought all those Hawaiian potato chips at
Oh yeah,
Costco. What a dumb
yeah.
thing to eat. I mean, guess who little piggy ate just about that whole bag? I thought,
Mhm.
you can't be buying stuff like this at Costco. This is a bad, in fact, you can't be buying stuff like this at all. I don't, I love, they always talk about when it comes to diet that, oh, you're either a salty person or starch or bread, or you're a sweet person. And I'm going, no, I'm an everything person. I love it all. And it tempts me
That
right
makes it really
into
hard for you.
right off the wagon and into the road, and I'm chowing down on all of it. So it's really hard. So I never buy potato chips. We were at somebody's house last night and they had potato chips, and I had some because I'm like, oh, potato chips. But
Oh,
if that had been at home, that bag would have been gone in the evening. So it's just like, don't bring it in. Oh
you know what?
dear.
Those like Dots pretzels. Have you seen those in the store? They're like specially seasoned pretzels. They're pretty new. They've only been out for a couple of years.
Because I haven't seen
Oh
them.
my God, no. I can't even buy them. I just refuse to buy them because
Yeah, don't go near them.
I
I
would,
bought those peanut butter filled ones the other day. I paced myself pretty well, I have to say, but I thought, okay, you can't buy these either. You just can't buy this stuff. Go buy another apple, So
the only thing like during the pandemic, when all hope was lost for everything, I did the only like real sweet thing I have an issue with really are like Teddy Grahams. I know it sounds weird, like chocolate Teddy Grahams.
oh my
And I
goodness.
was sat there at one point and like I had a box of Teddy Grahams and a glass of wine. And that to me was like a big downfall. I gained a lot of weight thanks to Teddy Grahams.
Teddy Grahams and
Wine.
wine, not even Teddy Grahams and milk, but Teddy Grahams and wine. Well, you were very adult with your Teddy Grahams,
Well,
having
I
your
drank wine with them, so that was better. But chocolate Teddy Grahams was a
Oh, that's
bomb.
funny. Well, I got to say, the pandemic, I think I was one of the few people that sort of, I mean, not that bad things weren't happening, but I was not one of those, oh, I'm so depressed. I'm in COVID, we're in lockdown. Well, of course, we did a lot of author online events. And
Yeah.
I just hung out with my girlfriends online. We played cards online. We realized you can play cards online. You hold the little card up, and we played, we played categories online. We did all kinds of stupid stuff. It
Yeah.
really helped. But then, also, I think when you're quarantined with someone, with having my husband, if I had been by myself, one of our mutual friends, it's just her and her cat, and I think I would have lost my mind if it was.
Yeah, it's true. My husband helped a lot. I mean, being quarantined with him was great.
Yeah, it
So,
does help. It does
yeah,
help. But when you're on your own, not quite so much fun unless you have wine and Teddy Grahams. So, guys, keep that in mind when there's a
wine and
problem
Teddy
again.
Grahams was a great combination. I told
All
my
right.
nephew that, and the next day he came over with a box of Teddy Grahams and a bottle of wine, and I'm like, Shane, that was not a nice thing to do. But,
But I'll take it. Oh, that's very funny. So, speaking of reading them, what are you reading right now?
I just finished reading Maggie Stiefvater's book, first adult book that comes out in June. It's called The Listeners, and it was phenomenal. I really loved it.
The Listeners.
The Listeners, and it's a World War II book. It's set in actually a luxury hotel in West Virginia. I think it's West Virginia, yeah. And it's where it's based on the fact that during the war, they had, Axis diplomats here in America that they had to, they had to sequester. They had to keep them. They were enemies in the country, and they had to treat them well because Axis countries had American diplomats, and so it was like this quid pro quo. You keep our people happy, and we'll keep yours happy. So they were essentially prisoners, but they were keeping them in these luxury hotels, which was a fact I had no idea about. But that's what her story is about, and it was really well done. Really,
that sounds
really
interesting.
Yeah,
every time I'm sorry. Go ahead. I apologize.
No, it comes out in June. It's called The Listeners, and that I read an advanced copy of that. That was really good. And then I read a book called Victorian Psycho, which is a horror book. Which was also it was very funny. Actually, it's about
a funny horror book.
Well, yeah, it was. She's a nanny, in Victorian England. Is it? I don't remember if it was England or not, but yeah, but she's a psychopath, and it's a very short book, but it was actually very entertaining.
What's the name of that book again?
A Victorian Psycho. It's by
the Victorian Psycho.
Psycho, yeah.
Oh,
like American Psycho, it's Victorian Psycho. Her last name's Feito, Feito. She wrote a book called Mrs. March a couple years ago that got a lot of attention.
Okay, I'm writing these down. Yeah. Always looking for new books, and it's and some of them just rise to the top. Like cream to the top of the milk jug, and those sound like really good books. But speaking of good, so we all have our favorites. Oh, by the way, Lisa. Oh my gosh, Lisa said there were 11 family members in my Monday night, but 11 family members in my house during the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
Oh my
wow,
goodness.
That's a lot. The toilet paper must have been a problem.
I know. I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, when the toilet paper was there, you guys must have been out running for it. I mixed you up with Cindy. She said we have so many in the Monday night book group. Well, so you guys might want to be reading Megan's new book for one of your book group reads. A lot of these our guests, of course, are writing definitely books that you want to think about for your book club because there'll be good discussion involved with them. Everybody has a favorite book. My favorite one, Megan one, is A Splendid Ruin, and I was looking at that got 26,000 reviews. How on earth?
Yeah.
20.
No clue. I have no idea. Why do some hit and some don't? I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, I'm still asking. I can tell you why that one hit because that was just amazing. And it had those Gothic overtones, and it was kind of like reading an updated Victoria Holt.
Yeah.
You can't find anymore. Our little library at the beach, they've gotten rid of a lot of the older authors that a lot of us grew up on. And I'm like, well, wait, where's Mary Stewart? Where is Victoria Holt? Well, you can go get it on whatever. I'm like, you're a library. Why don't you have? Oh my goodness. So I think that's why I liked that book. That was
and it was. I mean, it was deliberately supposed to be a Gothic, and that sort of old, like the old Gothics. So that might be why. I have no idea. I mean, it surprised me when that many reviews came in.
It was really fabulous, and the whole unreliable narrator thing. It was really a brilliant book. But okay, let's talk about the new book, because we can't have you here and not talk about this one. So tell us just a little bit about what this book is about.
This book is about a Hollywood costume designer. She works for a movie studio whose past brings her to the attention of the CIA, and sort of like what happens when that happens. And it was sort of inspired by the fact that while I was researching A Dangerous Education, which is the book that came out before, and they were both set in the 1950s. And I was reading about where the CIA, which was pretty new coming out of World War II, and all the other countries pretty much, had their spy systems had them for years and years and years. But America didn't, because America wasn't really a world power really until, World War I, World War II especially. And so they were kind of having to come up to speed with their spy systems, their CIA, and the Cold War really plunged them into fast forward. And so they were coming up with all these new propaganda sort of systems to sell democracy worldwide, and also to fight communism and the Soviet Union. And I stumbled across this thing about the fact that the CIA had what they called the Campaign for Freedom. And they had a propaganda unit that was involved in all of the arts. And what they were doing was essentially not just propagating propaganda against the Soviet Union. They were using it in America to teach Americans how to live, how they should be, and to strengthen America against the communist threat. And one of the ways they were doing this was, for example, during World War II, all the women took the jobs because the men were away fighting the war. Well, when the men came back, they needed those jobs back. So what the American government, the CIA, and all of them were involved in was convincing women to go back to the home and to raise their children to be good American citizens, because they needed good American citizens in the fight against communism. And that women could best serve their country by being good wives and raising good American children and raising them to be American patriots and soldiers in democracy. And so that was what this propaganda was about. And they were doing it through books, through magazines, through newspapers, through art, through music, and through movies. And so if you're looking at the movies at this time, they had planted CIA agents as censors in movie studios who were telling the movie studios, okay, because not only were movies being sent overseas, as propaganda tools, but they were trying to convince Americans how to be Americans. So like women had to be wives and mothers in these movies. If they weren't, they had to be evil in some way, or they had to.
Really?
Yes. They had to, for example, be drug addicts. They had to lose, or if they were too clever, or they were running businesses or whatever, in the end, they had to fail, or they had to die.
They had to be unalived. Huh.
Or, for example, they would have Black people in all these scenes, because one of the main arguments that the communists had against America was that it was a racist country. So they deliberately planted Blacks in country clubs and in music venues, cabarets, and stuff like that, where they would not have been allowed in real America, because they were trying to convince the communists that, hey, yeah, they're allowed everywhere. They're everywhere. And they were also trying to convince Americans and overseas communists that, Americans were totally on board with sort of corporations in capitalist society. So like, buy more, be a good, consumer, buy all of these washers and dryers and stoves and refrigerators and all this kind of stuff because you're contributing to the American economy. And besides, these are great for you. So like, you know, when you buy a vacuum, for example, that means you're no longer having to beat a rug. You know, it makes your life easier, but it's also changing the paradigm in ways that women aren't even realizing, because if you're beating a rug to clean it, you're only doing that, every 2 weeks or something, because it's a pain in the butt, right? To take your rug out there. But if you're buying a vacuum, all of a sudden the standards go up, right? All of a sudden your house has to be cleaner. All of a sudden everybody has a vacuum, and oh my gosh, now you've got a vacuum every day. So there's more housework for you to do. Same with a washing machine. You're going from washing your clothes once a week or whatever in a big, you know, kettle. Yeah, it's easier, but it means you wash your clothes more often. There's more housework. So you're making women domestic goddesses. You're planting them firmly in the home by giving them more to do. And, you know, we're all very happy with our capitalist overlords now, because we're all part of the American capitalist experiment. And this is what they're doing. This is what they're doing through movies and through media in all ways. And I'm just sitting here going, oh my God, we are still products of this way of thinking. And, you know, and also what's going on is, of course, the blacklisting of writers and producers and directors during this period for being possible communists. McCarthyism is running rampant at this point in time. So part of that, of course, goes back to the point where at the beginning of the 20th century, communism was an intellectual club more than it was an idea or a conviction. Many of these people were not actual communists who joined the Communist Party. They were looking for other intellectuals to have conversations with, but their lives were being destroyed when McCarthyism came along, because they maybe joined the Communist Party to have, you know, intellectual discussion parties with other people. And all of a sudden, you know, McCarthyism comes along and they were part of the Communist Party for like 2 months back in 1941. And their lives are destroyed, their careers are taken away. So all this is so fascinating.
That happened to Lucille Ball. I remember reading her biography. Her uncle had got her. She didn't even know what she was joining, and got her to join this thing, and really had nothing to do with anything. But yeah, she got pulled on the carpet, and then she was exonerated. But she went through a lot with that accusation. But gosh, it's interesting. That's an interesting take, because part of me, I'm thinking, well, the 50s kind of were boom years. We had money to spend, you know, and everybody did want their own house and the American dream. And gotta say, I sure like my conveniences.
Yeah, but you were
freer thanks to them.
But a lot of people were being primed to believe that as well, to believe that that's what they wanted. And they were put into these cheaply made homes and all of these developments. And, you know, those developments were also redlined so that minorities could not get in there.
Yeah.
You know, so you are, you know, the thing is we're products of a kind of manipulation. And yeah, in many ways that life is easier, but also that's what was happening. So for me, it was like, this is so interesting, and it's such an intellectual idea. So how do you take something that's intellectual, and how do you write a book where you're picturing the CIA as like a semi-malevolent entity at a time when most of us kind of believe they're a semi-malevolent entity anyway, you know, and show it as the fact that Americans did not believe that they were being manipulated by their government, and would have been horrified to know that they were being manipulated by their government. And that, you know, I mean, we're much more cynical now after the 60s and 70s, but at that period in time, we were not. You know, we wouldn't have believed it.
Well, and then we're home from the war, and we don't want to think about it. We just enjoy life. And you know what, though, as you're talking, I'm thinking, throughout history in so many countries that often is the case. Some were people where they're being sneakily manipulated, some where it's more blatant. We had I'm getting off topic here because I've promised I'll come back, but we have friends in the East who grew up behind the wall, and they had come out and visited a few years ago. Really nice ladies, and I finally kind of got up my nerve and kind of like, guys, I mean, what did you think about? I mean, they walled you in. And
Yeah.
she kind of laughed, a little embarrassed, and said, well, we were told that the wall was up to keep the West out,
Yeah.
which really wasn't the case. And we actually were in Germany before the wall came down, traveling, and it was, I tell you, I think it marked me for life just because of the things I saw. It was like being in a bad movie. You know, you would see, I probably can't even describe some of the stuff I saw because I might get put in, Facebook might not approve. So I guess I won't share some of the things I saw, but it was really an eye-opening, interesting, like, well, here's what happened when, when socialism springs a leak. It was very interesting and eye-opening. But the 50s, you're right. And, having been just a little kid in the 50s, clueless, and you just, kind of like, to me, when I think of the 50s, I think of hula hoops and yo-yos and, and sherry and lamb chop and that kind of thing. So you're hearing about this and the movies. Now I'm going to have to go back and watch some of those old movies and see if I see that there is something going on, that there's a subliminal message going on in those, because I don't think I ever really noticed that. So, God, yeah, too.
Yeah, well, it was really, I mean, it was super fascinating, and it just makes you think about how much of the world around you, how much you are, what's the word I want? How much you are influenced by the world and the culture around you without you sort of realizing how much you're not in control of, that you think you are in control of. And it's just such an interesting idea to me. So
that's a really good point, and a good reminder to always try and think for ourselves and investigate everything, investigate all sides and all angles, and don't be a bad. It's really good to kind of watch what's going on around us. So that's a really good reminder. And also this book I did mention, there's a bit of a mystery here too, and so I think you guys are going to really be interested in this, and even in some of Megan's. Like I said, my favorite is still A Splendid Ruin, but that's not to say all our other books aren't fabulous. But if you're looking for a good Gothic read, that's on my fave list. And Megan is going to very kindly do a giveaway tonight for us. And so, Megan, what are you giving away?
I'm going to give away a copy of Dangerous Education, which is my other book set in the 50s. And it's about a woman who takes a job in a boarding school for troubled girls, and doesn't realize until she gets the job there that one of the girls is a child she gave up for adoption when she was 16.
My goodness. Wow. Okay, that sounds fabulous. So guys, some lucky person's going to win that. And I hope you enjoyed. It's a bit of an education talking to Megan today, isn't it? So I hope you guys feel like you learned some interesting new things talking to her, and really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. It's just been, it's been an education, not necessarily dangerous, but a good education talking to Megan, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thank you for having me.
And we're going to say bye to all of you, and thanks for coming. I hope you're enjoying these as much as I do, and thanks again. And Megan, well, I don't know if it's raining where you are, but it's yucky where we are, so stay dry.
Yeah, it's that windy, stormy kind of thing where trees fall.
Yep. So anyway, everybody stay dry, stay well, stay warm, and keep reading.